folks? My name is the Yeti, and I'm always on the move. I'm traveling here and there, and I want to have you sharing my adventures as I go to different countries to work for extended amounts of time so you can see through my eyes how to live in another country and how to get used to another culture. On this segment, we're going to talk about my adventures over in the Middle East. The Middle East, specifically Israel. Israel is in between Jordan and Egypt. Israel is a very popular place to visit, especially if you have cultural roots there or if you would like to visit a lot of the religious sites there. One of the most popular places that you can see sticking out of the map is Tel Aviv Yafo, but that's not where I spent my time. The time I spent in Israel was a little bit place that was called Afula. Now, Afula is a place that's located very close to Nazareth, as you might see here, which is another popular city, a very big city. However, Afula does not even rank among one of the top cities in Israel, one of the smaller cities that's relatively about 50,000 people strong there. In the time I spent in this area, which was about 4 to 5 months, I lived like a normal citizen and went to work every single day in an area called Kavar Tavor. Not to mention, I spent the second half of my time in Israel, approximately 3 months, in an area called Haifa, which we'll discuss in a future video. Haifa is a very popular port, as you can see, that has places like the Baha'i Gardens, and we'll talk about that at a further. So the average flight time is approximately 15 hours, depending upon what airport you leave from in the United States. Of course, I left from the East Coast, so it'll be less for me. But you want to think about what you're going to pack depending upon what season you're going to come. Just know that even though it's Israel, they do have a winter season. In the area I was in, it tended to be a little bit more rainier and it can get chilly in the nighttime. As far as summer goes, well, definitely. If you like Arizona, you'll like this type of area. It can be more than 100 degrees in the shade at times in the area where we're in. So moving on there, so for visa costs, if you're a tourist, you're definitely not going to have to do anything. You're going to get off the plane, you're going to go with your passport, and you're going to come, of course, to border control. They're going to be nice enough to give you a small blue ticket, which will let you into Israel. However, if you're there for work, you're going to have to go through another process which takes place before you even get to the airport, which takes about a couple of months. But that's a whole other video in itself. As far as the currency exchange, in 2019, which is the time I was there, it was $1 to 3.5 shekels. I stayed at during my time in Israel. Well, I actually stayed in several different places, but the first place I landed, which was right outside of Afula, was a place called the Kibbutz Mizrah. The Kibbutz Mizrah is an area that was established around 1923, which has small community areas where you can rent rooms for yourself or perhaps for a small amount of people for conferences and other type of gatherings. So this is a courtyard area where we're having a little bit of a get-together. It's very common to see barbecues out in the courtyard. There are some barbecue grills in a lot of the areas in the kibbutz. So let's get into it. Here's the entrance to my room. It's a one-person efficiency style room. It can fit 2 people. However, you might get charged a little bit additional rate. It does come with air conditioning. However, I would advise you to keep those windows closed because mosquitoes do populate in this area and like to party outside. This is a hot plate which I used to cook with while I was in the efficiency. So let's do a quick review of everything we've talked about thus far on this video. So first off, we talked about the visas. If you're coming over as a tourist, you will have to pay nothing. You will get off the plane and you will approach the customs and they will ask you why you're visiting. And you'll go through a short little interview, but this should cost you nothing and you'll receive a little blue ticket, which is your entrance into Israel. However, if you are coming over for a work assignment, such as myself,
You're going to have to pay and schedule out ahead of time to pay $3,000 and go through a set of interviews before you leave the United States, if you're leaving from the United States. Now, as far as airfare, it depends on kind of what time you want to land over in Israel. March through October is going to be your more expensive time, where on average about $1,500 US is what it's going to cost to fly from the East Coast over, and even the Midwest over to Israel. For those wanting to save a little bit, if you want to go there between October to February, that'll be a little more reasonable. For about the average of about $1,000, you'll probably have 2 to 3 connection flights, most likely. But in addition to that, you're going to get a little bit more rain because during that time period, it's a little bit cooler and definitely a little more rainier as you go towards the winter months. Now, wondering how you're going to get from the airport to your destination if you're going to the Nazareth Afula area, definitely it's going to cost you about 100 US dollars for a nice cab. They have an app that is similar to Uber, but not Uber or Lyft. It's called Get. And you can go to your local iOS or Android marketplace on your mobile devices to download that application. Now, as far as the cost for the kibbutz Mizra, for a per night stay, it's going to be on average about $100, depending upon what vendor you go through. You can book directly. You can go through such places such as TripAdvisor or Booking.com, and maybe get a little bit better of a price if you book for a month. When I booked for a month, my average price was about $89 US. Um, we didn't talk about the abbreviation for shekels, but NIS is the abbreviation for shekels. So currently, based off when we're doing this video in 2020, 100 US dollars is approximately 380 shekels. Now, as for food, food is an entire video in itself. We commented earlier that in the kibbutz we cooked on a hot plate that we purchased. But the kibbutz area does come with one, but I just wanted one that was a little bit newer and spiffier. And that cost alone was about maybe 30 to 50 US dollars. $50 being a more premium one. Now, pertaining to fast food can range you anywhere from $5 if you're going to get shawarma on up to perhaps $15 if you're thinking fast food means McDonald's or Burger King or some of the other local treats, and maybe even past 15 if you're willing to sit down. Pertaining to groceries, vegetables are relatively cheap. You can get vegetables for maybe about a third less the cost. That's a little bit aggressive, but at minimum, 15% less you can get in the United States. Definitely fresh. Local produce is grown in the farms. In fact, the kibbutz area grows items itself that are probably sold in the local markets. Now, in addition to all this, the meat is the most expensive thing you're going to buy in the grocery store. Meat prices can be anywhere between 10 to 15% more than what we pay in the US, definitely depending upon where you live at. I'm speaking from a Southeast United States price and also a Midwest price because those two areas I've lived in the most. So this in summary is kind of the cost you're looking at if you're going to be in the Afula Nazareth area for a prolonged period of time, more than just as a casual tourist. If you want to make that kind of a temporary stay, longer than a week or two, I definitely suggest the accommodations we talked about. Thank you very much.
If you like the experience we shared with you today, please give us a thumbs up. And definitely, if you like it, please hit that subscribe button to hear more tales about the Yeti on the move.